Okay, so we've done task 1. Now we need to look at task 2. Task 2 says the weight in kilograms of each pupil is recorded again on the last day of term. Calculate and store the difference in weight for each pupil. So basically what we need to do is kind of do what we've just done, but also we need to store the weight difference, so we need to do a calculation. So let's have a look at the code. We can have another array to store the difference. So we're going to store the difference and create a blank array to store that. I'll just add a little bit of comment here. Stores the weight difference from start and end of term. Now we could store the weight. In fact, we probably should really. We're storing the weight here for the start of term. Let's store the old weight, the new weight as well. So we're storing 2 lots of weights: the first term and the end of term end weight or end weights. It doesn't specify that we actually have to store that, but I think in the long run it will probably be easier to do it. And you never know, you might be helpful. So we've created 2 new arrays to store that. What else do we need to do? We need to basically do everything here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. And actually I'm just going to change as well here where this start here. I'm just going to just put a little handy print statement in to tell the user, please enter the start of term weights. Okay, and then here I'm just going to do another handy one where it says, please enter the end of term weights. Now realistically, if this was a real program, you wouldn't do these things at the same time, but and you probably have some kind of menu system, but we're just doing sort of the bare bones of this task. Okay, so I've pasted in that code, so we've now got 2 versions of this. Pasted in the previous code from task 1, and we're just going to change this slightly. So what do we need to change? We're still entering the name and we're still entering the weight of people. Now we don't have to store the name again because we've already got that in the first task. So I'm just going to comment that out. Actually, I'm just going to delete that line here because we don't need that anymore. The code at the top is still going to stay the same. Our counter still needs to be increased. That's just debug here, so I'm just going to leave that in. And actually, I'm just going to print the new weight, the end weights. I'm going to print that in. When we append this weight here that we're entering for the end of term weight, then we're not appending it to weights, we're appending it to end weights. Okay, so we're just going to change that there. So I'll just go over what I've done. Again, I've pasted in task 1 code. So there was 2 versions of it, and I'm now amending the second version because we're entering the weights again before the end of term, which is why I've got that line of code here. I've deleted the line where we're entering the name because we don't need that anymore. We've already got their name. And I've also changed this line here where we're recording the weight in the end weight array instead of the begin weight array. Now what we need to do, we need to work out the difference between the start weight and the end weight. Now we could do that all at once. We could do it as they enter it, and actually I think that might be a good approach. Just thinking about this. So there's a couple of ways we could do this. We could work out the change in weight or the difference right at the end when we've entered all the weights in, or we could do it as we go along. And I think we should do it at the end, just to sort of do a batch process. So I'm just going to check this code works and run it. So I'm going to enter me Okay, so that's task 1. It's printed out task 1. I've got 5 people there. Julia, Bob, Simon, Sarah, Sandra. And now we're entering the end of term weights. So this should just store it. It's not going to do the difference. So it's asking me for the name again. So I can see there that I've made a mistake in that code where I actually need to remove this bit here. But it should actually... we don't need that line of code there, basically. But that comes up, brings us up with a problem, because if we look at the code, we could just be entering a weight now. So I've removed the line of code that says enter the weight for this person. But actually, there's a slight problem in that, if we're just entering the weight, who do we know that we're entering the weight for? So we need to use the previous code or the previous array, the names array, to say, okay, give me the weight for this person. So we're just going to change that a little bit. So probably the best way to do this is with a for loop. So we're going to put a for loop inside this loop here, and we're going to get it to go through every person in the names array and say, please enter the weight for this person. So for index in range, you'll see what I mean in a minute when I've done it. If you're a bit confused, you'll see what I mean. So we're going to go through and say, print, please enter the weight for that person there. Okay. Now we need to just amend some of this code, indent some of this code. So this code needs to be indented. Do we need to indent that anymore? No, I don't think so. I think that should be fine. Okay, let's run this. So what this is doing is it's going through the names array and saying enter the weight for this person in the names array. So let's try that. And obviously it's going to go through task 1 to start with. So I'm just going to, oh, sorry, I've put a weight in. Oh, try again. That was, I just put text in. I put someone's name in when I should have put in the weight, sorry. There we go. That was a testing error. It wasn't, there we go. Okay, so enter the end of term weights. Please enter the weight for Julia. Okay, so I've put on a little bit of weight. And then Simon. So it says, please enter the weight for Simon. So can you see what that for loop's doing? It's going through the names array and picking out each individual person in the array and then saying, give me the weight for it. And I'm just going to make these up now. Please enter the weight for Sandra. And it's a bit quicker when it's the last one. There we go. Right. Okay. So obviously it's just printed out. That print there is just, I haven't amended that yet, so just ignore that. Okay, so we're entering the weights. Okay, that's good. That's not a problem. Okay, what do we need to do now? We need to find the difference. So if we need to find the difference, we can use this for loop at the bottom here that I copied from task 1 that we don't actually really need. And what we're going to do is we're going to work out the difference between the start weight and the second weight, the end weight. So we can say diff weight is equal to weights index minus end weights index. And then we're going to print those out. Or we could print out, we need to store that as well in our array. So we can say diffs, is it diffs that we called it? Just diff. Diff equals, diff dot append diff weight that's adding it on. And then we need to print it out under here, so we can print the index and then print the difference in the weight. So actually I'm just going to put diff weight like that. Okay, let's give that a run and see if it works. Hopefully it will. Enter the name. I'm just entering these in different ways again. Okay, so that's the task 1 done. Now we're entering my finishing weight, so I'll make sure I put on weight, and Simon, he has put on weight as well, and Bob is going to put on lots of weight because he was a bit underweight. Sandra's going to have lost a little bit because she was off sick for a bit, and then Sarah is now slightly overweight, more weight as well. Okay, so we can see there that this for loop that you can just see in the background, that's done the differences in the weight. Now, interestingly, you can see I've got it the wrong way around, haven't I? Made a mistake there. So I should actually have put the end weight first, because if you look at the output, all the output, see, I put on weight, my start weight was 67, my end weight was 68. So, sorry, yeah. So actually I've put them the wrong way around. So I'm just going to amend that and change that round so it is there. So it's minus weights, there we go. And that should fix that problem. Now, I'm actually doing task 3 at the same time as task 2. Sorry about that. I forgot that I need to do it separately. So I'll just double check that again, that I've got it working okay, and then we'll finish off task 3. We've done part of it already, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so I'll make sure I put weight on, and most people have put weight on. I'll give one of them a lower weight, and then that will, there we go. Great, there we go. So the weight differences have been done. I've put on 10 kilograms, that's quite a lot. That's because I saw the Tesco van go by and I put loads of weight on. Simon, 5. Bob's lost 7 kilograms in weight. Sandra has put on 2. Sarah's put on 3. So good. That's all working correctly for task 2 and part of task 3 as well.